Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast live. The intro didn't quite go as I planned it there. It didn't want to work. I don't know why. Perhaps it doesn't like the heat. I don't know. Anyway, welcome everyone to tonight's podcast where I am joined by my co-host Victoria and two fantastic guests from Heart and Hand, Caroline and Marina, who you may recognise from before. Start off by welcoming Caroline. Caroline, how's your day been today?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, I was just telling you before we came live there that I had my driving test and I passed. So I feel, pretty pleased with that.
Absolutely fantastic. Fantastic news, Caroline. Great way to start. Positive news there. Fantastic. And Marina, how's your day been today and how are you?
Yes, not as exciting as Caroline or as nerve-wracking, I can imagine. It's been quite a calm day. I've been looking forward to tonight and looking forward to coming back on. It was a great time last time and looking forward to meeting Victoria this time. So thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Marina, obviously, who was on the podcast with just me before, is on, obviously, with Victoria. And Victoria, all looking fresh, ready back from NASA. Victoria, how are you and how has your day been? And how was NASA?
I am so good. I'm having my NARSA post-NARSA depression, we call it, when you've had a fantastic time at the event and then all your friends go home and you're just here yourself. But other than that, I'm fantastic. Had some amazing memories. I know we have our NARSA pod coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about it, but I'm super excited to be joined by these two amazing ladies. Marina, I know I watched your podcast before and I got to know you a little bit via that, but I never got to be on with you because I was busy at that time. And then Caroline, yourself, congratulations on passing your driving test. That must be such a big relief for you. And welcome to the Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast. We're happy to have you.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and thank you to everyone who's joined us in the live chat tonight. Some very familiar names that I've been quickly flicking up on their comments whilst everyone was talking. Trying to keep on top of the comments tonight. And obviously, thank you as well to our fabulous members. 37 members now joined up. We only launched this the other day. Thank you to all of you. Your names are there on the screen. You are our loyal members, and thank you so much for supporting the channel. Well, tonight, obviously, we're joined by Marina and Caroline. I've asked Marina her Rangers story before on the podcast when we had Marina on. It was just her and I, and obviously it's Caroline's first time on Glasgow Rangers Nation, and we want to find out a little bit about Caroline, don't we, Victoria?
We definitely do. So I think we're going to start it the way that we usually do. So Caroline, tell us a little bit about your Rangers story. How did you first start following Rangers and all that?
So I am from a pretty football-loving family, but it is a split family. So my dad was a Celtic fan. My mum's a Rangers fan, and she was clearly the more persuasive of the two because I was a Rangers fan kind of from day one. Having said that, I wasn't massively interested in football as a young child, but probably from around 13, 14, I started properly getting into Rangers, and a big influence was my older brother who was already in Glasgow, would take me to games. When I moved to Glasgow when I was 17, I kind of got a season ticket, and that's really it. Never looked back, and met Marina when we worked at the same workplace, and I've got an away day buddy in Marina, which is great.
Oh, I love that. So that's nice that you guys are able to connect kind of that way. And it's always good to have another lady friend to go to the Rangers games with. Do you have a favorite player? This could be someone far, far in the past, or it could be a recent player.
Do you know, there's probably different players depending on what lens you're looking at it for. So, for example, I think Ali McCoist is probably the player I have most affection and love for, but I didn't actually see much of him or none of him really live. Just what I've seen, especially looking back on old games. I love the personality. I love what a kind of advocate he is for the club now. I love that. But in terms of players that I've seen, you know, probably someone like a Mould was the most exciting. We didn't get to see an awful lot of him, but that excitement that he gave you was quite special. I loved Perzo. I absolutely loved Dado. Yes. I just thought he was fantastic. In recent times, someone like a McGregor's got my complete admiration for the service to the club. I don't know if Steph Marina's toes here. She's the Miss McGregor. But his tenure at the club and the moments that he's given us as fans put him pretty high up that list too.
No, I totally agree with you. You mentioned some names there that like brought back so many memories for me. Like Dado is one of them, and they're absolutely fantastic. How about your top Rangers memory? Do you have one of those that really stick out to you?
Yeah. Do you know what? Again, it probably depends what you're looking at it for. Like there are games, like my first ever Old Firm game was the 5-1 game, Tori Andrew Foe's game. That was really special, given as well how previous fixtures had gone. So that's up there. But anything, although our European finals haven't gone our way the last couple of times, that experience of being able to see your team in a European final, a lot of fans don't get that or can't even dream of that. So that's probably up there with my proudest moments.
Oh, I love that. And you're so right. Those are special moments that you really don't get to see all the time. But when they do happen, it's one of those moments that you are like, okay, I must be there. How am I going to find a way to get to those special moments?
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to make the effort. Obviously, some people it's not so easy to travel, but seeing the parties that were back in Glasgow and all over the world, it's really special how we all enjoyed that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very
Fantastic
good.
memories there. Fantastic players' names as well from the past. There, there's a question in the live chat, and we always obviously on this channel like to get our members and our viewers involved. And before we obviously get into the teeth of the podcast tonight, Aldo, who's a good buddy of mine, says, "What's the best goal you've seen live?" Question for both Caroline and Marina. Marina, I'll start with you. What's the best goal you've ever seen live?
Well, I'm not sure, like in terms of like quality of goal, but probably Lundstrom against Leipzig. Just like what it meant and the atmosphere. Like, sorry, I feel a bit emotional still sort of thinking about it, but that just it just meant so much to us. Unfortunately, I wasn't at Tannadice to see Laudrup's header to win 9 in a row. I'm sure that would be up there for a lot of fans. So I think for me, yeah, Lundstrom. Definitely for what it meant anyway.
Absolutely, that's a fantastic goal, yeah, and that was an emotional night, wasn't it? A very emotionally charged night. Caroline, what's your favourite goal that you've the best goal you've seen live? I mean, it doesn't have to be quality; it could just be what it meant.
I think the one I celebrated the most, and looking back on, is just such a stunning goal, is the Mendes goal at Parkhead. That was absolutely beautiful, and I still love watching that back. And I think from a kind of technical point of view, it was stunning.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And Victoria, I'll ask you as well, but I think I already know the answer to this question. Victoria, what's your best goal you've seen?
So the best goal I've seen, obviously it wasn't in person. It was on a TV screen, but it was in my dad's hotel, Helicopter Sunday, Nacho Novo. I mean, when you think about that, that's something that I actually legit bring my phone out and I say, do you want to see something great? And I show people, I'm like, here you go. That's one of my favorites. And of course, the one that was scored by our Buffalo Soldier, not so recently, a good couple of years ago, that I spoke about as well, but definitely Nacho Novo's goal was one that you look at and it brings back so many great memories. You feel that passion inside of you kind of like ignite in that fire. And it's one of those things you'll never forget. You'll never forget those feelings that those goals make you actually feel inside. How about you, Owen? Do you have one?
Yeah, so for me, it would be Gazza's goal against Aberdeen when we won the championship at Ibrox, the one where he ran from his own half, took on half the Aberdeen team and scored. That's just Gazza's one of my all-time favourite players. Not just because of his skill and his ability and his talent on the pitch, just as also because of the player he was. And that goal just is one that I love going back and watching time and time again. So definitely the Gazza goal for me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% there. So obviously, if we come here tonight, we're going to talk about Rangers. It's getting to be a very busy off season for Rangers, and it needs to be, obviously, as we rebuild to take on that lot from across the city, whose name we don't like saying. So let's start. Obviously, we're going to ask you all this question. Start with you, Marina. What do you make of the business that's been done by Rangers this summer so far, and which signing stands out for you the most?
Yeah, I've been impressed with how quickly that we've done the business, and we've got a lot of the players. Well, is it 4 concrete signings so far?
Yeah.
Hopefully a lot more in the pipeline. So yeah, so far so good. I think we've filled areas that needed to be filled. I'd still like to see strikers, another striker at least, a clinical one. I think who stands out for me the most would probably be Butland. partly because he's very handsome and that goalie top, and those were big gloves to fill. But also I think just the fact that he really wanted to be at Rangers, like he had other options, and to go from the Premier League to, like, even though he wasn't first choice, to come to Rangers, it certainly shows that he wants to be there. So I'm really excited to see what he can do, because I was a bit worried about, how do we feel? Do we replace Alan McGregor?
So how do you replace Marina's husband? On the
You can never do that. You can never replace the guy.
Caroline, what I want to know though is, do you think there'll be a tear in Marina's eye on the first game of the season when it's Jack Butland in goal and not Alan McGregor in goal?
By the sounds of things, she's quite happy with the replacement, so I don't know if there'll be any tears. I think she'll be enjoying the view by the sounds of it.
Same question to you, Caroline. What do you think of the business done so far this summer? And which signing is it that stands out for you the most?
Yeah, importantly, I like that we've done a lot of it early. We've got a huge number of signings to make, so getting 4 already under our belt is nice, and I think it puts everyone at ease a little bit. So that's a positive. I think Lammers, I'm hoping, will be a bit of a dark horse. I know that his last season, he's probably been, not hitting his previous heights, and some of the reel of highlights probably aren't showing the best of his qualities. But I do hope, like we've seen success with other players in the last few years, we can find a bit of a diamond in the rough, someone who's had a hard time settling with certain clubs. Kent's a good example, apart from how he obviously left in the circumstances of his last season. But someone like a Kent who hasn't settled anywhere but has the potential, when you can focus someone, to be really good. I think I put Lammers in that category. I'm not trying to build him up too much, but I'm hoping that's how he'll turn out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think Lammers has had a bit of a tough press, to be honest with you. I mean, I get the statistics point of view, the 6 goals and 67 appearances, 5 goals in the last 3 years. But, he's played in Italy. And I think the problem is a lot of fans lose track of the fact that Italy, it's a strange one. It's a difficult league to play in. And he did well in Holland with Heerenveen and with PSV. I mean, there's been great strikers who've gone over to Italy and had an absolute nightmare over there. I mean, the name that leaps out at me straight away is Ian Rush. I remember him going to Juventus after being a superstar at Liverpool, and he really struggled over there and didn't ever manage to hit the heights that he did in England. So I think Serie A is a very strange league, and it's a very defensive league. Plus, I think we have to remember, that he played on 2 very poor teams in Empoli and Sampdoria. And I was listening to Rangers Review the other day, and apparently Sampdoria lost more games than they scored goals last season. That's how poor they were. So I'm with you, Caroline. I think we have to hope we've got a diamond in the rough, and hope Michael Beale can obviously, resurrect his career in a little bit the same way that he did with Cantwell, obviously. Victoria, what do you think of the business that's been done so far this summer? And is there any signing that stands out for you at the moment?
So it's funny, I actually agree with you two ladies. When I was looking through the different signings that we made, those were 2 that actually really stood out for me. Of course, Lammers is one that I look at that I'm like, okay, I have to ignore what has happened in the past with him. And I have to trust in Beale that he knows what he's doing. There's a reason that Beale picks certain players that he does. Maybe this guy wasn't on the right team, because you can, as you guys know, you have just different connections with different players when you're on a pitch, different atmospheres. So maybe, like you said, he'll be a little bit of a dark horse coming out, and all of a sudden he could end up being this fantastic player, like we've spoken about players like Kamara before and stuff like that. And then the other one, I've got a quote that I'm going to read out that I found earlier, is of course from Jack Butland. He's one I'm excited about to see what he's going to do. He's someone that's ready to prove himself with Rangers. And there was a quote that came out that said, "I'm over the moon. The club speaks for itself. No matter where you are in football, you know about Rangers FC. It's a huge opportunity for me, and I'm delighted to be here." So for me, that kind of shows, just from that one quote, the passion that he has behind him. He knows that Rangers aren't going into this season saying, okay, let's see what we can do. They're going in saying, okay, this is what we're going to win, and this is what the outcome is going to be. We all expect this to be a huge season, and I think these players that are coming into Rangers know the expectations that not only Beale has for them, but also they're listening to what the fans are saying. I'm sure they've heard like a couple of podcast comments or newspaper articles about what the expectation is behind them. So their eyes are open, and I think they're definitely aware of the pressure that's on them. And I think they're going to show up because there's always a reason behind choosing a certain player, even if they haven't performed well in the past. So I agree with the ladies. I think those are two players that we're really could surprise us. Definitely could surprise us. How about you, Owen?
I think Butland is the one that stands out for me the most. He's a big guy, 6'5". He comes for crosses. He commands his area. He's a shot stopper. He's a leader, and he's one of the things that really impresses me about him. And is like you said, that quote: he wants to be here. He wants to play, and he wants to fight for his place. Caroline, do you think that's probably that is be the vast majority of the battle with a lot of these guys? Is they want to be here and they want to fight for the jersey? Is that's what we need, isn't it? We need more of those type of players rather than these prima donnas that we've perhaps got in the past.
100%. I think that's been our biggest downfall in the last season in particular, where the quality of players, like was mentioned by Victoria, Kamara is a great example of it. You know, he seems to turn up a bit more for Finland. I know he was asked by the Finland coach to do even more, but the reliability for him in a Finland top compared to what we've seen in a Rangers top is night and day. So it's about how much they are committed to playing for Rangers. And it just, for example, with Morelos leaving, I know we're fond of the Morelos of seasons long ago where, you know, he was fantastic for us. But at the point Morelos is at now, anyone is almost an upgrade on Morelos that we saw this season, who is unfit, uninterested at times, and really turns up on his own schedule.
Yeah, I agree.
That's his personality, isn't it?
Absolutely. Marina, do you think that's the battle? As long as we have players out there that want to fight for the jersey, they're going to be better than going out and perhaps paying these big prices for players, these prima donnas.
Yeah, absolutely. It's half the battle. It's not everything, but it definitely they need to want to be there. And as Caroline said, that is exactly what we've experienced with Kent, Kamara, and Morelos being the perfect examples. So it doesn't matter how great a player they are, how much potential, or how much we know, if they don't want to be there. A bit like Laudrup in his last season as well. If they don't want to be there, if they've lost interest, then you can't bring that back. So definitely second everything you've said.
Absolutely. I mean, I follow a lot of NFL football. I'm a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and the head coach of the Steelers, he has this quote. He says, "We want volunteers, not hostages," and I think that's kind of what we need at the Rangers, isn't it? We want people who want to volunteer, want to be there, and want to fight for the jersey, and that's the big part of it, isn't it? Definitely for us going forward next season, if we're going to catch and pass that lot that will remain unnameless. Obviously, I think we've done well. We've signed four new players, and that's a great start. Whereabouts though, in terms of positions, do we still need to add to? Where are the kind of key areas do you think Rangers still need to strengthen if we're really going to make a good run at that 56th title next season? Marina, I'll come to you first on this one.
I'm sorry, I said kind of answered that earlier as well. Yeah, clinical striker. I think hopefully Caroline's right, and the Lammers, with a bit of nurturing from Beale that we've seen that he's been able to do with Cantwell, for example. Hopefully Lammers will be a good striker, a good signing for us. But I'd like to see someone who can score like 25 goals this season for sure. And if we get two of them, then even better. Unless Ruth magically manages to become fit and stay fit, then definitely clinical striker.
Yeah, Caroline, other than strikers, which other areas do you feel are really still in need of strengthening within this squad if we're going to go on and obviously contend for that 56th title? And I think probably as well for most fans, make a decent fist of it in the European Champions League this year.
Yeah, I think we definitely need a couple of midfield additions. I think players will be going out. I think Kamara is likely to be leaving. Jack as well. I'm probably quite comfortable that he's signed a little extension, but we have to expect that he's not going to be fit and available the full season because that's not what we've experienced over his Rangers career so far. So I think some additional cover, and it depends. I mean, we've got Lundstrom, of course, and Raskin Cantwell, but I think it's horses for courses. We will need, hopefully as well, if we're in Europe, a large squad and midfielders that can probably fit a number of different requirements. So I'd like to see midfield strengthened. Marina, absolutely. I would say that forwards is probably the biggest area for concern. I think I've heard rumours that Čolak may be on his way out. I don't mind Čolak, but I do think we could potentially do better. So I think someone to complement a Lammers, a Roof, whoever it may be, is definitely required.
Absolutely, yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, the rumours around obviously Čolak that are swirling at the moment is that I think Werder Bremen are allegedly interested in him, and there's a few Bundesliga clubs sniffing around Čolak at this moment in time. Victoria, do you feel like, obviously other than strikers, I think which we all agree on it, do you think there's any other areas you'd like to see us really strengthen this this summer?
Yeah, so strikers, I would say bring in 3 of them. I think that'd be great, and maybe 1 great defender as well. That's really, really important for us to have, especially when we spoke about certain people perhaps exiting Rangers, which we're going to find out maybe in the next couple of weeks or so. And obviously being at the NARSA convention that was in the past there in Toronto, I listened to what a couple of players said, ex-players in Rangers, and they seem to be in agreement that what they actually really do need is the 3 strikers and the 1 defender. How about you, Owen? How are you feeling about that one? Do you think we need to bring in a defender, or?
Yeah, I think central defender is a key priority for me, and I think it's reassuring, obviously, that we've been linked with a number of them recently. Hopefully, we'll get a movement on that. I think Ben Davies may well be on his way out this summer. I think Ben is technically very good. He's good at passing. He's good at bringing the ball out. His passing range is good, but the thing for me that worries me about Davies is his physicality in the Scottish Premier League. I think he does kind of lack that for the SPL. He doesn't have that physicality that we need. So yeah, that's where I'm up to with my thoughts of that. And as I said, on plenty of videos, like the one I released earlier, talking about where we need to get some players as well. So yeah, definitely, Victoria.
Mm-hmm. So this is one that I personally don't know a whole lot about, so I might have to leave it a little bit up to you ladies and Owen yourself. But would you like to see them add realistic targets? People that we love, obviously, like Mbappe, all that stuff. Great players, but realistic targets on other teams. Is there anybody that you maybe have your eye on that you'd be like, you know what, that would be a good one to add into Rangers? We'll start with Marina. What do you think?
I'm not going to do like girl power much good here, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, it's not really my forte. I know, Caroline, your brother used to be quite good at it, like kind of scouting for players and looking, and I know it really interests a lot of people, and I enjoy seeing other people's hard work. One of our podders from Heart and Hands, Adam, he put together a really good thread on Twitter, and he kind of broke it down with like expected goals. Well, for strikers anyway, I think he's done other positions, expected goals, conversion, goals per game. So that's really interesting. I think Boanga stood out from there. I don't know if I pronounced that right. But yeah, myself, like that. So that's all Adam's work. It's not mine. Yeah, there's nobody really that I could that I would say.
Yeah.
Listen, so another interview that Adam did with Simon Edwards, who's the English journalist based in Colombia, and he used to, he used to be quite useful for Morelos information, and I think he was saying like maybe tap into the South American market. So I'd like that. There is a sort of Latin American hole in my life now that's been left by Morelos. So.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from with that one, and I agree with you. It's hard. Like, I feel like some people that they need to find are these diamonds in a rough. They're teams that we don't necessarily always pay attention to, but you have these expert scouts that go out there and they realize, oh, you know what? Let's dive into this, maybe a smaller team, but look at this player. Isn't he fantastic? And just pluck him out and put him over here with us. How about you, Caroline? You seem to be a little bit of maybe an expert, or you're saying your brother is a bit of an expert on this one. Do you have anybody that maybe your family's been talking about?
I'm not going to make any similar claim. I would say that Adam's threads are very well researched. They're very statty. So he does look at the data that backs up some of his recommendations, and it's really interesting. For me, the pick of the bunch of targets and who have been linked with is definitely Cifuentes, and I see that, I think Stuart said that in the comments as well. He looks really exciting, and I think he would be a fantastic addition if we can get that across the line. And according to various sources, you don't know how close that actually is, but I think he would be a real quality addition and a difference maker in the squad. So I'm hoping for that. I suppose in terms of targets, I'm more quick to say who I definitely don't want. So when you see links, I don't know how reliable they are, to kind of Dykes or other people, I could kind of firmly say that I don't see him as being a good fit. I know that he's had some good appearances for Scotland, but I just don't think there would be a good fit in the Rangers team. So I'm probably more quick to say who I don't want rather than identify any additional targets.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. And I agree with what you said there. I've seen that pop up in the comments. And I'll tell you one thing, girls, like I'm always the first one to probably butcher someone's last name. So hopefully I'm not doing it with this one. Cifuentes, am I right? Is that kind of
sounds good to me? I believed it.
sounding accurate? He is someone as well. It's been popping around a little bit that I don't know a whole lot about. But with yourself saying that, like I think in the next maybe coming weeks, that might be something that's more down pat and more of something that you see is coming out in the truth in Rangers. Is becoming less of a rumor and more of a truth. So I'm hoping that is going to happen there.
They need to wait till the 1st of July or something for a contract, and then more might come out then. But I think hopefully it is.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's hope so. Let's keep our fingers crossed and then see how well they perform. Is their performance that we all got to look at, especially when they get first out there on Rangers. How are they going to handle the shouting of the crowd? How are they going to handle mixing and mingling with other players from different countries? It's like working with a family. You got to learn how to work together hand in hand, right? And understand the way each other work as well. So how about you, Owen? What do you think of anybody that has your eye on, or what are you thinking?
So the two names that stand out to me obviously is like Caroline was talking about. Cifuentes is one I think we definitely do need to get across the line as soon as possible, especially as there's been rumours of Premier League teams sniffing around him, and once they get involved, you obviously then can get gazumped by them because they've got a lot more cash than we have. So yeah, he's one that definitely excites me. He's very, very technically very good. He goes box to box. He's got good skill. His skill levels are good. His passing range is good. He's incisive with his passing. The rumour that I read earlier today was, I think similar Marina was saying about we're going to have to wait till July to get hold of him because he's currently on international duty with Ecuador, which was mentioned in the comments by Johnny as well. So I do think that he would be a great acquisition. The other one that I would love to get, given the fact that I've seen him play live, is Josh Madger. But obviously that again is a complicated one, given the whole, Bordeaux, will they get promoted? Are they going to stay down because of the incident that happened in their last game? And that's still under appeal at the moment. But Madger, he's a quality player. He's both footed. He's good in the box, good out of the box. He can play that split wide striker role that Michael Beale seems to like. He does seem to fit in very well with that. So Madger is certainly someone for me that I would love to see us bring in. And I think he would be getting 25, 30 easily in the league. And I think he'd be absolutely battering that lot from across the city.
Well, I hope you're right. That sounds like something that we really, really do need, especially when picking somebody. So I'm going to start this next question to Caroline. You're going to start with this one. So do you think that Rangers need to appoint a sporting director? This is something that a lot of people have been talking about to replace Ross Wilson. Or is it too much can expect Beale to do that job and coach the team? I always thought that maybe it's better to have a sporting director to give him an opportunity to really focus on what he needs to do. And all great clubs do have a sporting director. So what do you think on that one?
I would like to see a director of football. I think Beale has been quite thinly stretched in terms of, we've heard from players how he's flown places to speak to them and kind of sell them the idea and his vision and what he plans to implement at the club. And I love that. But I just don't think he will have the time to do that necessarily at all points where you might want to engage with a player. So I think having a director of football who can take some of that load off Beale can only be a good thing. Yeah. And I think Beale has worked with directors of football. I think that would probably be his preferred choice. I know he said probably for the moment, because this is the position we find ourselves in, he's comfortable doing that and he has the right team of people, scouts and whatever to fill that gap. But I do think he probably would prefer to have someone appointed. And I think I would probably too.
I think that's a great option. How about you, Marina? How do you feel about that one? Do we need a sporting director in Rangers?
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think it's like urgent, so I think we can hold off until we get the right person. It's not really like, although it's great what Bill's doing, and it certainly helped us get some players over the line. It's not really sustainable for him when he has to start coaching. So yeah, and I guess the difference is like a director of football will probably be there after Bill, so you'll be thinking long term, whereas your manager's probably thinking more short term, like 10 years. So yeah, I would like to do one, but I don't. It's not urgent right now. And Bill's been doing
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. And how about you, Owen? Are you in agreement with the three of us? We're going to need a sporting director in Rangers, or do you think we can do without?
No, I agree. I think it's the way forward. It's a modern football club. At the end of the day, to expect a manager to coach the team, pick the team, and as well as that, obviously sign the players, negotiate contracts for players whose contracts are running down, work with agents, work with the scouting staff, oversee perhaps the B team as well, where in whatever guys they take this year. Look at under 21. It's just too much for him. The days of, I mean, people go back and say, well, Graham Souness was able to do it, but football in the 80s was a very different business, and even the early 90s to how it is today. You know, the business level that you go to at the very top of signing players and bring contract negotiation is exceptionally high. So we do need someone, and we do need Beale to remain focused solely on doing what we want him to do, which is to get this team right and get the team out in the park that's going to win us 56 and hopefully a cup as well, and at least have a decent run in Europe. I'm not saying we're going to win the Champions League, but at least have a better campaign, shall we say, than last year's, for definite. 100%. Yeah, sort of linking into that. Does the next sporting director have to be an ex-Rangers man, or does it really not matter? I mean, there's a lot of talk in the media about people who have been interviewed, like, for example, Bocanegra, ex-Rangers player. Mark Warburton was apparently interested in it. Craig Moore has thrown his name in the hat. Caroline, do you think it's got to be an ex-Rangers man, or does it really not matter?
I don't think it has to be. I think so long as your qualifications, your network, and your ability to do the job well is top tier, that's how we've got to prioritize things. Quite often we have kind of given jobs to the boys in the past, on the pitch even, and it's not always worked in our favour. So I'd prefer to award that type of role completely on merit. And that could be still someone with a Rangers connection, but I just would prefer to look at them independently of that.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. Yeah. And Marina, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, the same. I think it would be a bonus, but it's not. Especially, I wouldn't like either of those names or any of those names. So yeah, and also like especially Bocanegra, like things have changed, or not Warburton, like all three of them. Things have changed a lot at Rangers since they were here. So, yeah, European football, have good connections, but I don't think we need to hear like had linked or some sort of link with the club before.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Victoria, have you got a take on this one? On does it have to be an ex-Rangers man, or do you just want to see the best person for the job at the end of the day?
I think when it comes down to it, it has to be the best person for the job. But also, I want to make sure that person understands Rangers. They look into the history of Rangers and our club, because we don't want someone to come in that doesn't understand our team, our goal, and our motto. So I think as long as the person comes in respecting Rangers and wanting to be part of this Rangers family, this Rangers team, with all their heart and all their passion, I don't mind where you pick them from. If you've got the good qualifications and you know what you're doing thoroughly through and through, then I'd be happy to open that up to just about anybody. How about you, and what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's just got to be the best person for the job. I mean, there's obviously names been linked out there as well. You know, Paul Mitchell. I think Paul Mitchell. I think the guy who was ex Monaco. He's a name that stands out for me. he's someone I'd really like to see brought into the club. He, given his knowledge of the European market, he's worked with RB Leipzig, so he's worked under a trading model, which is, very much the direction Rangers are going down at this moment in time. So Marina Caroline, I know obviously finding a sporting director is a difficult one. Any names that you've seen linked, or any names that you've seen that are attractive to you coming into the club?
No, I'm going to copy Caroline's. Caroline's players is who I don't want, but no, I don't really know enough about that. Sorry, what a terrible guess.
It's okay, no worries. Yeah, it's fine. Caroline, anybody?
I think, and I can't remember how this turned out, but I think who Beale worked with at QPR, I don't know if that's been completely kind of pushed aside now, or if that's still a possibility. I think someone, and having a bit of continuity on who Beale has worked with in the past would be good. But of the names mentioned aside from that, I don't know why, but Warburton just seems a little bit exciting. I'm not basing that on anything other than I think his connections and his network might be the best of the names mentioned.
Yeah, and also I think Warburton as well is someone who he has a good track record with young players as well, and I think that's again a direction that we need to go in terms of developing those players again for this trading model that the club wants to bring in. So for definite, a little bit of I think of cheekiness in the live chat there. What about Chris Sutton for sporting director? That would be a definite no, D.
Definitely no.
Feeling quite ill all of a sudden.
Me too. Yeah, I don't like that man. Now, obviously, the whole rebuild that we're undergoing at this moment in time, and it is a massive rebuild. Obviously, we saw those guys, the 5 guys, leave at the end of last season on a free. Michael Beale spoke very recently, didn't he, about trading out, which is obviously the next step. That's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. Other than some of the obvious names, like Kamara, for example, are there any other names that are on the squad that you would think that that are going to be departing over the next couple of weeks? Caroline, who do you think? Anyone in particular who we think we should sell or will be sold?
I think Hadji seems like one that we can get good value for, and I think given his age and his status still in places like Romania, where he's still looked on so favourably. From a kind of national lens as well, and because of his family connections, if there's the possibility of getting real good money for someone like a Hadji, and someone who we have not, really had available to us a lot, even pre-injury, he was just on the periphery really of the team. That is a no-brainer to me. Kamara clearly as well. If we do manage to get a decent offer for him, for someone who's not really been a feature and someone we can't get really playing and firing on all cylinders, those would be a couple that I think we can dispense of.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some good, definite names there that I agree with. So I've just rephrasing it a little bit. Marina, there's obviously other names, like John Lundstrom, Borna Barisic, Fashion Sakala. Any of those players you'd like to see sold on or shipped out this summer?
Anyone's got a price, really. So yeah, there's nobody or no one in the current team that I would really hold on to. So yeah, if the offer's right, anyone really.
Okay, so yeah,
but not Cantwell.
I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah. I think there's kind of. I think we've kind of said, isn't there? There's kind of a few guys that are kind of non-negotiables or untouchables, and obviously Cantwell, Raskin, Tav, Goldson. Those 4, I think, are the kind of the untouchables. They're not going anywhere under any terms, any circumstances. Now, Victoria, I'm glad to see you held it together there when
it comes.
The name was.
I know. I'm sorry. I feel guilty now.
Now, obviously, Victoria probably does want him to be sold after the news today that Hadji got engaged to his girlfriend. So, Victoria, any names that you want to see shipped out this summer, other than now Hadji, obviously, because I'm sure you've fallen out with him.
Well, I've been reading the comments that have been coming up there. I'm going to address that just after I say this part. So, Sakala, that's always a hit or a miss for me, because obviously we've been watching him, and like Owen and I've said in the past before, when he's not thinking, he'll score. When he is thinking, he won't score. And we're talking about something that should be an easy goal for him. So he's someone that I'm kind of 50-50 about it. If he goes, he goes. It wouldn't bother me. so much. But then again, it would bother me if he's going to have a season where he's going to be scoring all the time and he's not on our team. Kamara is another one that I looked at because obviously he's someone that's great, but he could be replaced with somebody greater. And then the one that you have all been waiting for, Hadji. As much as I like the guy, I'm going to say he's got to stay. Only reason is because he's been putting in so much effort to get himself fit and ready. Why would we want to give that up? I think we should at least give him another year, another 2 years, whatever it's going to be, and then sell him after that. I think he's one of those players that has a good head on his shoulders and a good mindset. Maybe it's just me because I think he's really attractive, but don't worry, I have my eyes on somebody else now. But he's definitely someone that I think should stay because I think his value can go up. What do you think, Owen? Are you agreeing? Are you disagreeing? Or are you just shaking your head when I said I think he's attractive?
Well, personally, I don't find him attractive. I mean, I can see why people might, but personally, I don't. But no, I think, as I said in a video, I think it was a couple of days ago, I talked about Hadji, and perhaps, at the moment we'll probably get between 3 and 5 million for him if a price comes in. I mean, as Gala are interested because they kind of think it's their divine right to have another Hadji on their team. Celta Vigo linked as well. But I just feel with Hadji, if we can get a season out of him where he plays well, we can perhaps get another, say, 7 to 9 million for him. And it's just perhaps about maximizing our assets and knowing and selling at the right time. I mean, one of the big names that's doing the rounds at the moment in terms of will he stay, won't he stay, because he's entering the last year of his deal, is Borna Barisic. Now, obviously, Ridvan was the guy who came and played the vast majority of games, obviously partly because Borna was injured and Borna's wife had the child. There was other reasons. But Borna obviously was on the bench against St Mirren in the last game of the season. Caroline, do you think Borna is worth a new deal, or do you think it's time to ship Borna on? Given the fact obviously we've got, I know Divine's naturally a right back, but he can play left back. Sterling can play left back. There may be a possibility to buy someone. Where's your thinking at with Borna at the moment?
Yeah, and I like Borna. I think he gets a hard time sometimes. But that said, I can't deny that seeing Yilmaz play, he offers quite a bit more than what we more often than not see from Borna. So I would feel comfortable completely if Yilmaz was our number one choice. I know someone in the comments said perhaps actually he'd be the one that you could sell on at this moment. But I really like that Yilmaz gives you a different option. You can count on Borna to give you a couple of absolute precision crosses into the box every game, and those can provide quite a fruitful return for us. But Yilmaz, the way that we've seen him kind of offer something different, cut inside, link up nicely with Raskin or Cantwell. I've enjoyed watching that, and I'd like to see more of it and give him a full run of a season. And we've lamented in the past where we've not sold players, before they're in that last 6 months of their contract or their contract runs out. And if there's a possibility of getting a few million, maybe not now for Borna with just a year to go, but getting some return for Borna, it might be one that we regret not taking up at the moment if we do get an offer in for him.
Absolutely. Marina, where's your thinking at with Borna? Is he someone you want to see stay to be perhaps Ridvan's number one backup, or do you think it's time that, I think like Caroline says, we've got to not let him walk at the end of the season for nothing like we've done with Morelos and Kent and so on. Where's your thinking with Borna?
Yeah, probably much the same. It's just we can't afford another confidence crisis with Borna as well. We've had so many in such a short period of time, and when he plays well, he's great, and especially those precision passes that Caroline mentioned. But it's just happened once too often that his head's gone and he's too much of a risk. So I'm quite happy with Yilmaz or with Ridvan. I never know what names he is. So I think probably it's a good time to sell. I do like probably sell him.
Okay. Victoria, Borna, stay, go, re-sign him, give him a new deal. Where's your thinking with Borna?
I think he should stay. I think he has great potential. You don't want to let him go for less than he's actually worth. And I think he could be good for us this season. if he gets his head in the right place. How about you, Owen? What do you think?
Yeah, personally, I think Borna's time's up at the club. I'd like to see him sold if we can get a couple of million for him now. He yes, he is a great cross of the ball, but there's times even last season where he falls asleep too much at the back post. You've seen goals like the Aberdeen away, for example, against Celtic on numerous occasions where for me, he falls asleep. And yeah, he is good going forward, but he's a defender at the end of the day. And realistically, you need a strong left back, and you need someone who's going to, hold that place down. Ridvan for me is very good going forward, but he's also very good going backwards as well, and he can defend, and he's tackling. He's a good tackler. So I think if we can get $1 million, $2 million for Borna, now's the time to sell him and move on from him for definitely.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad. I guess you could take 2 million, but imagine if you could go for 4 or 5. Which makes me start to think though about these younger players that Rangers have been training, kind of like bringing up through the ranks. So some of these younger players that we've got is obviously like Alex Lowry, King, Devine, Lovelace, Rice. Would you like to see these certain players get an opportunity next year? Or do you think we should just look at new players that are coming in and kind of like just keep them where they are as maybe like little backups and stuff like that? I guess we can we'll start with Marina for yourself. Does like Lowry, King, Lovelace, Devine, do they stand out to you at all? Would you like to see them come forward?
I would. It's difficult, isn't it? In where we're expected to win every single game, then it is hard to give a lot of the youngsters a chance. That said, Devine probably especially, I've been very impressed with every game that he's played. But it's just, is he going to get that this season if he stays with us? So I would put them out on loan. I'd be happy for them to go out on loan and get that game time, get that experience. I don't know why, but in the past it's just really not worked that well for us. We never seem to manage to do it successfully or for them to come back. But certainly use them across the city. His name we shan't mention.
Yeah.
That's something I think they have been successful in the past, like loaning out their youth players. They can't play against them, but they can play against us and take points off us. So if we could do that, so I'd be happy for them to be loaned out to another club in Scotland or abroad. I would like to see them break through, but I think probably in order to do that, then they need game time, and that would probably be through a loan.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty valid point that you have there. How about you, Caroline? Would you like to see any of these little younger players get an opportunity to pop onto the big team, or would you like to see maybe they go out on loan and we bring in some larger, more experienced players?
Yeah, I think that the players have to see that there is a pathway, and I think for someone like a Lowry who has had a couple of kind of fleeting appearances, it's right that we kind of build in a proper plan for his development this year and give him more game time so we can have a proper assessment on whether or not he should stay or go out on loan or whatever. For King as well, poor King had a real baptism of fire, and I'd love for us to see him under more normal circumstances, introducing him into the team with an experienced partner, which he didn't get in kind of the worst possible way when he had to step up last season. So I really think we owe that to our youth players, and also to show other youth players that there is that pathway to the first team or have an opportunity. But I also think the loan market offers a really good option, like thinking about Lewis Mayo going out to Partick and then Kilmarnock. It gives you a real clear picture of whether or not they could possibly step up, and whether you have to go into to buy a player from elsewhere, or whether you might be able to utilise your own talent. So I think a mix of both. But for the ones that have been close to and in and around the first team, they deserve a bit more time than I think they got last season.
No, I definitely agree with you there. I think it'd be nice to maybe give some of these younger players a bit of an opportunity. That is, when you think about it, that's their goal, is to make it up to the big Rangers team. And it'd be nice to show them what it's like, show them that their hard work is paying off, which would be really, really great. What do you think, Owen? Would you like to see some of these younger players being given a chance, or?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Caroline says. You've got to show these young lads that there is a clear pathway, because you're not going to attract the youth talent to come to your club if there's no chance of them getting first team football. And we've used that in the past. Obviously, Bailey Rice was brought to us from Motherwell, Zach Lovelace from Millwall to join our academy, and I think there's a lot of talent there. There's an awful lot of talent there, and I think Leon King, he had an awful baptism of fire, but I think near the end of the season when he came in and he played, and he was playing alongside Suter, for example, he looked very good, and he looked comfortable back there, because I think having that experienced guy like Suter there to talk him through the game helped, and I think he would look good again alongside obviously Connor Goldson, who is an excellent communicator. I think Alex Lowry is obviously difficult. I know he would have liked to perhaps had more football, but this year has been an awful year for Alex with his injuries, with his personal tragedy that he had. So I think next year obviously is a chance for Alex to really kick on. And in terms of like the really young lads, I'd love to see Bailey Rice given the opportunity to impress. I know he's only 16, 17 years old, but he made his competitive debut this year. I think it was against Livy. He did very, very well indeed. He impressed in that game. I'd like to see him, given his chance off the bench in some games, particularly games, where we get 2-3 goals up against those, I hate to use this term, lesser teams, St Johnstone. I don't want to seem condescending or arrogant, but when we get 2-3 up against them, see Bailey Rice come on, see him give the opportunity to play. So I do think there needs to be a clear pathway, and they're the kinds of guys I would love to see having an opportunity for us. And also the fact that a lot of these guys are Rangers fans. They've grown up supporting them. They were on the terraces, and so a lot of time you bring those young lads in and they've got that extra 10%, haven't they? 15%, 20%, because of the fact they are Rangers fans. They love to play for the shirt. They want to be out there. So I'd love to see them given the opportunity for definite.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. It'd be nice to see people that have really dedicated most of their life to growing up with Rangers, to practicing with Rangers, loving Rangers, and actually getting the opportunity to walk out into that massive, massive stadium with like over 50,000 fans. I think that'd be incredible for them.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%, and it's definitely, we all know it's the greatest club in the world to play for, in our humble opinions, with our blue goggles on, don't we? So, but anyway, we're going to draw our podcast to a close now. We're getting near to an hour. Caroline and Marina, it's been an absolute pleasure having you both on and talking all things Glasgow Rangers. Caroline, have you got any final thoughts? Anything you want to plug, or anything in particular you want to mention just to close off the podcast?
No, I don't think so. Just a thanks for inviting us on. It was really lovely to chat to you both, and thanks to everyone for the nice comments and for participating. It was really enjoyable.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Caroline. And Marina, any final thoughts or anything you want to plug, or anything in particular?
No, I just like to reiterate what Caroline said. Thank you very much for having us both on. That's a lot of fun. It's really enjoy your show. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you both to Marina and Carol. Thank you for giving up your time. And obviously, thank you for all I love your work with Heart and Hand, one of the best podcasts to listen to out there. So thank you very much for that. Victoria, any final thoughts?
I just wanted to say how much I'm appreciative of the ladies coming on. It's been so nice to get a female's perspective. I feel like you watch a lot of podcasts and there's a lot of male perspective, male energy going on. So it's refreshing, and it's nice to have two girls on the podcast with me to get their opinion on all things Rangers, past and present. So thank you so much, ladies, for taking the time to come on. And I'm excited. Hopefully you'll come on again in the future.
Absolutely. Echo those sentiments, definitely. So, guys, thank you so much to everyone in the live chat. It's been a pleasure having you on, as always. Thank you for your questions, your comments. Makes the podcasts worthwhile. We will be back, obviously, throughout this week with daily news, any news that breaks, hopefully some new signings. And Victoria and I are going to put together a little presentation. I'm going to interview Victoria about NASA, so there will be a pod pre-record, a premiere dropping in the next couple of days with Victoria talking about NASA, so you can find out everything that went on in Toronto this summer. So, guys, thank you so much. Victoria, looking forward to that NASA chat.
I'm so excited. There's so much that happened in NASA. Things that I can say and some things that I can't say. You have to kind of be there to get those ones. But hey, if you're interested in the things that I can't say, you got to come to NARSA in New York City next year.
Absolutely, 100%. I'd love to get across there one year. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to Caroline. Thank you to Marina. Thank you to Victoria for your time. And thank you to everyone in the live chat. Guys, remember, keep checking out the podcast. If you haven't yet done so, please hit that sub and ring the bell. We are so close to 2K subs. It'd be great to get there sooner rather than later. Remember, always, we are the people.